Hey, folks, I'm State Representative Francesca Hong. Hope you'll call me Fran. Representative Hong is just for the Republicans. And I'm a candidate for governor here in my home state of Wisconsin. I'm running on the Democratic ticket, but I am a Democratic socialist. And we've been campaigning now since September, over 120 events. We're out here talking to folks, everyone from Superior and Rhinelander, Wisconsin to Platteville and Beloit. It's been really great to meet working class people in their communities and talk about their fears, what they care about, what they're looking forward to. And it's been a wild ride, and I'm really honored to be able to do this. And we're hustling. We have to out hustle folks because we're the grassroots campaign.
Yes. And you said the poll just recently announced you're in the lead. So
Yes, market polls were just released. And mind you, they kept saying that about 60% of the voters are still undecided, which makes sense. This is a crowded primary, and that's the Democratic way. But, my name recognition was real low when we started. And now we've surpassed the two former lieutenant governors, and we're stoked. And I'm kind of still shaking and in shock. But I think this means that people are engaged and they're ready for a fighter to be alongside them and not just fighting for them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm ready for that. Now I'm going to turn over to Melissa to introduce herself and to ask her first questions here.
Oh, yeah. I am. My name's Melissa. I'm so freaking excited to meet you. I read up on now I'm a resident in Virginia, but I, follow politics all over, especially people who stand on business when it comes to trans rights. I have a trans kid, adult kid, and living in Virginia, we have just rolled over from being a very purple state to being solid blue. Thank God. But it got hairy for a few years there with sort of a weak-wristed governor that continued to try to push through anti-trans legislation. Luckily, it didn't really go anywhere, thank goodness. But I saw some of your posts that were like just unapologetic, and that's what I love to see is people standing unapologetically on human rights. I freaking love that. And I also saw that you are from the service industry, and that's also near and dear to my heart. My husband manages a bar. He's managed it through COVID, kind of kept it open really after COVID. And during COVID, I started a website called Virtual Tip Jars that just went freaking nuts. And over like $3 million
restaurant
came through that site.
We
Yeah.
had folks donate via the virtual tip jar. That's what community power is. Folks
Yeah.
out here taking care of one another, and folks in the service industry, we're service first, right? So for people to show out for the people who are looking out, it was really beautiful. So thank you for that.
What was that career trajectory for you like? Because I can't tell you the number of people that I've met that work in service industry that I say should be in governance because they have common sense, they have their, priorities straight, and they're just real. They take care of freaking business. So what made you get started on that road?
It was 2016 when we opened the restaurant, the same year that I had my son. And I always remind folks, don't have a baby and open a restaurant at the same time.
Yeah.
But, I'm actually a college dropout, and I dropped out to become a chef. And the fact that we were able to open our own restaurant and really become a third space, a community space. And I think that's why folks asked me to run, because they wanted someone who would put community first. That was, I was out here foul-mouthed yelling at our authoritarian speaker in the legislature to do better, that he was putting people in harm's way, that public health was being compromised. And no one was helping small business owners like us. Our service industry workers, are relatively vulnerable. And I'm glad you mentioned that folks in the industry would make great elected officials, because we know how to talk to people. We know how to listen. We are out here about, the hustle and being a space for working class people to come together. And I think being a mom and pop restaurant, someone who, we brought together women in the service industry. I formed the Culinary Ladies Collective, and with a bake sale, we raised over $20,000 for Planned Parenthood. So it was the community ready for a different type of leadership, a foul-mouthed single mom who ran a restaurant to be out here hustling and getting shit done. And we've been fighting ever since.
I love what you just said, and especially about listening, because even now the political dialogue, there's so much lecturing that we get, and it's both political parties that do it. My friend Nick Paro, I'm going to have you meet Nick Paro too, and his
Yes.
comment is, the Republicans, their motto seems to be fascism now, and the current Silver Spoon Democrats, their motto seems to be fascism later. And we need somebody who just says no fascism, and every time I talk about these things, people start lecturing me. And I just saw Gavin Newsom say it, that they have to appeal to the moderate Republicans. And it's like, look, if you want to appeal to moderate Republicans, run as a Republican then. Let's have
Yeah.
some of these middle of the road Democrats transform the Republican Party, and then we can have Democrats who actually try to appeal to Democrats. So I thought I'd pitch that to you and see what your thoughts were on those ideas.
I was at UW Platteville yesterday, and this is a student population that's, relatively like purple and maybe even leaning red. And the folks who shut up, there were people on both sides. And a couple of the students came up to me afterwards and they're like, thank you for naming fascism for what it is. And I hear from folks that, maybe I want to tone down the language, that it's abrasive, that, or is it, do you have to say fascism all the time? And I think it's very important, like when I named the genocide, like that we have to be real about where we're at so that folks feel that sense of urgency and agency that we have to come together to fight back. And it shouldn't be like this. And if we care about our shared humanity, our shared future, our kids, we have to be out here making sure that these little revolutions that are happening all across the country become the big one to actually go from a system that's rigged, that benefit the elites, the well-connected, the fucking billionaires. The people can win, and that moment is now.
Yes.
Let me pivot to Melissa, because I know I'm close to Minneapolis, so we've been seeing what's going on there. And with this, people are dying. And I always say, what assurances do we have that these ICE agents, we don't know who they are. So what assurance do we have that they're not pedophiles and rapists and murderers? They don't tell us their names. They don't tell us their backgrounds. What assurance do we have that these detention camps, people aren't getting abused? And I know I've seen it, with my friends. Melissa, what's your experience been like where you're at?
Yeah, we're having ICE activity here, but the way they're going about it is entirely different because we are a heavily military and veteran community. They are super in stealth mode. These aren't like the big gangs of tactical geared dudes out in the middle of the day. They're operating at dawn, at dusk. They're hitting construction sites, and they're really relying on the fact that we don't have a lot of people on rapid response here yet to get away with that activity without being recorded and monitored. So that's what we've taken upon ourselves. Those of us who are doing rapid response is okay, if we need to get up half an hour earlier to catch you guys at 6, that's what we're going to do because we're going to be watching you all the time. And it's interesting as we watch the different tactics that they're using in different cities, they are tailoring their tactics to the cities. They're doing a lot more undercover stuff here, undercover vehicles, buying up really old vehicles, like busted up vehicles that we then see agents come out of. And like I keep saying to people when there are people here that want to say, well, I mean, they're just doing federal law enforcement. Nah, like driving a 1988 Camry with the paint rubbed off and rolling out of it masked up is not federal law enforcement. You know it. I know it. We know how to recognize legitimate law enforcement activity. And this is not it. And so we're trying to learn from the cities that have already had the activity go on and sort of set some best practices while also recognizing that the way they're going to execute this in heavily veteran areas is going to be different because the entire veteran community is not with this and they are armed and trained. So, yeah.
And I'll note that, there's been increasing ICE activity here in Wisconsin since January. And because parts of Northwest Wisconsin are close to the cities, and we do have law enforcement who are on these 287G agreements to voluntarily coordinate with ICE, the communities that are actually relatively small rural communities are being targeted. And I am a part of some of these rapid response groups trying to get resources from and learn from the folks who are in Minnesota where community resilience just grew, and we could see, what community is capable of when we have a lawless rogue agency like ICE abducting and disappearing people. And we wanted to support an immigrant-owned restaurant when we were up in Baldwin, Wisconsin, and they got raided by ICE. 4 staffers were disappeared, and they let ICE agents in. A customer did, into an employee-only's area, but the community's fighting back. They are reinvesting in mutual aid, out here making sure folks got groceries, can have a ride to work, that they are making sure that cars that they can't identify, they got a list of them to make sure that they're able to track. I mean, the patrol looks different in rural areas, but
Yep.
people are making sure that they're showing up for one another. And I need more people in Wisconsin to look at supporting organizations like Chippewa Valley Indivisible, who is the organization that I trust to get funds and resources directly to families and the people doing rapid response. Because yes, they're absolutely eventually probably going to target our blue cities, but they're in the smaller towns right now in eastern Wisconsin, where I know that folks who are working for different at different factory jobs have been targeted. And so these are lawless rogue agents who are more concerned with, kind of meeting whatever random desire that they have to control people and not giving a shit that they're upending people's lives and forcing folks to live in terror.
Yeah, and we'll have to share this interview with the Chippewa Valley Indivisible so more and more people can see and hear what your message is. But I want to say this is why it's so important for you to speak unapologetically about the reality of what's going on, because we know that the legacy media is not covering this as they should be. And so much of the country, so much of our state isn't aware of these true dangers. But the reality is there are human rights violations taking place. We don't know what's going on in these detention centers. There have been some horrific rumors, and it's 73,000 plus people. Again, people coming up from South America are Roman Catholics. These are Christians. I always like to emphasize this for the Republicans.
Yeah.
This regime is more anti-Christian than any regime ever. And I think is the United States committing a genocide? I mean, where are all these people? What are the names of the people that are detained? It's very serious right now. But it's just part of the overall, when we get back to that idea of like, the Democrats say we have to appeal to the moderate Republicans. Well, even something like restrictions on restrictions on reproductive rights is a human rights violation. That gets people killed. So why are we listening? Why are we acting as what is moderate about sentencing women to death, stealing their bodily autonomy? So I think the more we start having those conversations, that gives us a stronger platform, from which we can rally the people and get the victories and get the government we deserve.
The reality right now is that we are criminalizing physicians, nurses, and policing women's body. And we're going after women for exercising their freedom and their right and protecting pedophiles, right? Like that is so fucking absurd and should never be a reality, that instead of holding pedophiles accountable, we are arresting doctors and we are having women die during childbirth because folks don't know if they could even perform an abortion procedure, which is a medical procedure, and reproductive rights are human rights. Reproductive care is healthcare. I mean, but also, should we be surprised that the Trump regime is out here just slashing funds for people to get health care, ripping away food from children, defunding food share here in Wisconsin and food stamps? Of course they're going to go after women who need health care as opposed to going after the pedophiles, where the corruption just seems to be endless and knows no bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So
Melissa?
when you're having conversations with Republicans there, so like I said, I'm from the South. I'm originally from South Carolina. So Republicans there have been on the okie doke since 1860. There's no talking to them. Like there's just no conversation that's going to breach the divide of this institutionalized racism that and white supremacy that they have internalized and made part of their DNA. But I'm unfamiliar with the brand of Republicans that live in the North. What are those conversations like when you try to bridge the divide and have these like eye to eye conversations?
It's so much in the approach that I'm asking people to see me as the single mom, the bartender, the restaurant owner first, because I don't blame fucking anyone for not trusting politicians right now. So if I'm showing up in spaces, whether it's at a meet and greet or a Democratic County party or at the dive bar or a bowling alley, I'm trying to approach the conversation with someone without the judgment that they voted differently than I did in 24. I talked to an Obama, Trump, Biden, and I believe Trump voter after that at one of our events. And he came out and told me that it's the economic issues, how I'm not showing up as an elitist, and the fact that I am different because I want folks to be proud of living and being from Wisconsin. I want folks to love the state that they're in because I love this state that's afforded me so many opportunities. I mean, this is a state where a foul-mouthed mom and service industry worker became a state representative, and I was leading in the polls. And so the Republicans here in Wisconsin, it's a diaspora. And yes, some of the MAGA folks they are part of a cult. Just like how hard it is to get folks out of a cult. I mean, that's where they're at. But there are some folks whose lives have been so upended and they know that, like, they don't know if government could ever be a force of good or that material conditions in their lives can change. And when I'm speaking directly to someone, I bring up the bar Sharona's in Shawano all the time, where I talked to an indigenous factory worker and he was telling me about having to, I was like, look, I remember when I would go to work sick as a line cook because I couldn't afford to lose those hours. And
Yeah.
I gambled on going to the emergency room from passing out from a fever versus making sure that I could work those hours so that I could pay my rent. So then that got into paid leave for all. Like, why shouldn't the state afford to make sure that you can have some paid time off when you have a new baby, when you have an aging parent, when you're sick, when you got somebody who might be a survivor of domestic violence needing to stay at your house because it's the only safe place? My bill would ensure that your paid leave is covered. And so getting into these policies that are common sense, and just because they're universal, that doesn't mean they're extreme. It means that's right.
Mhm. Excellent. And I think I want assurances too that my taxpayer dollars aren't being sent to fund people that are abusing other people and hurting children. I don't want to, it's hard enough to make a living and have my taxes go somewhere. I'd like it to go for education and things like that rather than people beating on little kids. I don't want to participate in that. And I know
Well,
there
in
was
Wisconsin, your taxes are going to tax cuts for billionaires.
I
Small
was
businesses are oftentimes paying more in income tax than the largest corporations because they get this thing called the manufacturing and agricultural tax credit. So the fact that our hard-earned tax dollars aren't going back to fix roads or to make sure that our kids in schools have their supplies and fucking air conditioning or heat, this is absurd. And like public parks and public pools and great libraries, these are all things that, it's socialist policies, right? It's government funding the things that are for everyone to be able to participate in and enjoy. And the thing that resonates too with folks is when I tell them, like, why should you have to work almost to death to try to get a vacation? And we got motherfuckers like John Menard out here, not only like ripping people off with a
Yes.
like cheating like a rebate system. He's sitting there playing tennis at a tennis club, watching his wealth grow in
Yep.
the millions, sitting there So they like to target, a lot of times we hear about like people are sitting at home playing video games and like reaping these benefits. And it's like, look at who's not working and watching their wealth grow and then getting a tax cuts with our tax dollars. And so it comes down to fairness and letting folks know that you deserve better for the hard work that you're doing.
Yeah. The phrase I was gonna tell you is like, we need to end billionaire welfare because it's like they take so
Yeah.
much money for us, and everybody talks about taxing billionaires. We don't have to do
Yeah.
that. We just have to stop giving them subsidies. We have to stop giving them all of our it's like, and usually this is a very strong argument. I don't
Yeah.
understand why the DNC doesn't talk about this, but it's like, if we just stop all the subsidies, all the free handouts to billionaires, every accusation is a confession with billionaires. They're always accusing us when the reality is they're the ones that are stealing all our money. So yeah, just end billionaire welfare, I think, is a phrase that, that conveys that really quickly. It'll work effectively. But that was exactly what you were saying. I do want to pivot though quickly to I just filed a lawsuit, a bunch of school districts, because the schools are not being funded. And I know, I mean, we have to get rid of these voucher programs too that funnel funds away from the public schools. Just, just to help people that have more than enough money anyway and are already getting all the benefits of all the tax dollars that are taken from us. So,
Yeah, and I
Well,
saw that you were on the cover of Time as one of the
woo,
most tech-savvy AI skeptics who are working to stop or at least slow
oh,
technology infiltrating almost every aspect of our lives. Like, yes, standing there. But I feel like that's probably a good point of bipartisan support as well, because when you look at the natural spaces, one place you
mhm,
can find common ground with most Republicans
yes.
is those outdoor spaces, those natural,
ooh,
like classic conservatives is what I mean, because they do value their outdoor space, they value their hunting
Yeah.
lands, and they value their wildlife lands. So talk about like this attack on AI, which I love because here in Virginia, we are currently embroiled in the data
Oh,
center, like every state, I feel like, with the data centers and us paying those electrical bills to subsidize
okay.
these centers.
Yeah.
y'all were the petri dish. Like a lot of the explosion of AI data centers was tested out in Virginia
Yep.
first. And then we can look at now in Wisconsin are the numbers. The state having given out hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies for the construction of these AI data centers, and then looking at how many jobs did they actually create, right? What are like the numbers of the short term and long term economic benefit, especially of these smaller communities? In Illinois, there was a project that received over $30 million in subsidies, and they created 21 jobs. The numbers just came out today from the market law poll. I mean, the bipartisan opposition to these AI data centers, it's an easy win and the morally right thing to do, to think about and try to figure out and coordinate regulation of AI data centers and the growth of surveillance and the threat to jobs. I mean, we have a tech company, Epic. Most healthcare systems are using Epic for their software, and people are getting laid off. You know, folks who are working as in offices, data analytics, marketing. This is terrifying how those jobs may become obsolete. And in Wisconsin, when I say bipartisan opposition, I mean Republicans, independents, even some MAGA folks, Dems, showing up to their local government meetings and say, not the fuck here. You're not going to, our natural resources are not for sale. You're not going to jack up our utility bills that are already going up. And the thing that's going to make people like that's attractive about our state are our gorgeous natural resources, those public lands that you were talking about. I mean, hunting is a time honored tradition here in Wisconsin. I myself very much enjoy trap shooting, getting to say pull and watching a clay bird pop up. So these AI data centers are a threat to our way of life, but they're also like just I think an existential crisis right now. And our grid, it's not strong enough for this. We should be investing in renewables. I feel like companies like Enbridge are at the ready because our reliance on oil and gas, natural gas now. And so, you know, I feel for the folks in Virginia, but I gotta say, we don't have enough data on AI data centers, and the data
Yep.
that we're seeing from states like yours, it's not fucking good.
Right.
Follow up, Melissa?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, I feel like that is one of those things that any Democrat running, it needs to hone in on that, because that is a completely across the board bipartisan message. Absolutely. In my local next door, which is a swamp, it's horribly toxic. But the one thing that most people agree on there are their utility bills, the power bills, and the data centers. They don't want the waters here anymore. We have shipyards all over the place. The waters here are already pretty polluted. We don't need more pollution on top of that. And we cannot sustain additional hikes to our utility bills here. They're already through the roof. So I think that's something that is so smart for any liberal, left leaning, progressive, whatever words we want to use. But speaking of words, you also unabashedly run as Democratic Socialist, and you own that. And is that something that you ran on when you were running for state rep as well?
No, I became a dues-paying DSA member after I won my election. They actually didn't endorse me because I was running against a DSA member. But I knew that this was an organization that shared my values. And I think that running as a Democratic Socialist means that, well, one, the Dem brand isn't great right now. Two, we're recognizing that this might be and is the party of working class people. And I get asked all the time, the S word, it's scary. How are you talking to rural folks? How do establishment Dems think about this? And I go back to the different identities and lived experiences that I have. Yes, I'm a Democratic Socialist, but I'm also that single mom. I'm a renter. I'm looking at my utility bill and being like, okay, I should probably pay my phone bill, or make sure I'm paying for my kids' taekwondo classes first. And maybe I got to put this off for a little bit. My legislative salary does not cover rent in Madison, Wisconsin right now and cost of living. And I'm still trying to find work as a bartender. I got a baking shift. I hope they don't fire me because I haven't been able to go to a bunch of them. But I go back to not only those identities, but the issue. When I talk about universal childcare, when I talk about fully funding our public schools, strong public schools make for strong communities. They're some of the largest employers in any community. So when it's about jobs, when it's about your money, when it's about, my values as a Democratic Socialist means I prioritize and I govern and I try to live my life based on fairness, democracy, and human rights. And every economic issue right now, you can tie back to those values. And working class people in Wisconsin who work hard and shouldn't have to work multiple jobs to get by and try to get a vacation. And so it's I'm running on the Democratic ticket as a Democratic Socialist. And I think right now that helps me become actually the outsider candidate who is an establishment. And I'm not going to be answering to the donor class. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm not taking APAC money. And I am so proud that out of all the donations to Democratic candidates at the last filing period, we had more individual donations than the next two candidates combined. We're at almost over 8,000 individual donations now, over 5,500 unique donors. I mean, I got an opponent whose average donation was fucking $2,000. And so this means that I'm beholden to the people. I'm beholden to folks who are donating. We have every single county represented. You know, Iron County was the last county we were trying to get a donation from. But that just also means I got to keep showing up for them. And that's the best part of campaigning is showing up for folks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. It does me so excited when you say things like that. And one of the things that's at work is it's a word like democratic socialism. It's because for too long the Democratic Party has just conceded all the messaging, and it goes back to their let's appeal to the moderate Republicans, because Republicans are just full on with their, and a lot of it is just hate rhetoric and stuff and normalizing crimes against humanity like they do. We need the other side to emphasize there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of money. Our lives don't have to be like this. This is the richest
Yeah.
country in the world. We don't have to all be miserable. We're barely getting by, and all of our taxpayer dollars go to billionaires somehow who get free handouts, and then nobody ever says anything. But then the second you try to give a kid a free lunch, everybody flips out. And so we can't just
Yeah.
sit here and be like, okay, that's the way it is. It doesn't have to be like that. We can actively go
No.
forward. What you're doing, I applaud you. You are spreading that message. And I hope all the people here continue to spread it too.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I'm so glad you mentioned trans rights, right? We
Yes.
saw like Gavin Newsom just fucking, like he abandoned that. But then
Yes.
you have Andy Bashir who doubled down. And I think that we're attacking the wrong 1%, right? And
Right.
when you want to distract folks from corruption, from hate, and spew it on communities who just want to live their lives, I think that I partnered with this amazing trans woman, Mercury Stardust, and I had no idea she even knew about our campaign. She came to our campaign launch, and we ended up doing some videos together. She does this amazing she has multiple. She's written multiple books. She's a handy person. She will teach you how to build a whole ass house. And when I went to River Falls, Wisconsin, up in Northwest Wisconsin, I had a couple folks come and they were like, "We don't pay attention to politics. We didn't know about your campaign. But when we saw you on Mercury Stardust platform and doing a video with her, we had to check you out because they trust her." It's the Dem Party, because of their complacency and the corporate Dems having so much power, they didn't realize that so much of this is about the messenger and not just the message. And they have been gatekeeping candidates like me, young progressive candidates, trying to undermine democratic socialist candidates and elected officials when we're the ones actually expanding the base and making it so that we should be radically welcoming of all folks who want to engage right now. I can't be out here shaming and judging folks because of their voting record when they are hurting just as much as all of us because of decisions at the top, right? And so fighting for trans rights, that's fighting for human rights, fighting to make sure that we're moving away from these culture wars that are distracting us from the fact that the oligarchs and tech billionaires are eroding our way of life like that. I'm so grateful to her. I'm so grateful for the leadership of the trans community because I was a ranking Democrat on the Committee on Education, and we have seen session after session these bills that attack trans kids, that don't let them play sports. And it was 12 hours of public testimony, and maybe 20 minutes of that were these hateful bigots and Moms for Liberty folks just coming in attacking our children. But then the trans community and folks who love them and are defending them came out. And I have never seen a community so fiercely defend one another. And that's leadership. I want more communities to know that when we are in each other's corners, when we fight for one another, that's how we keep each other safe. That's how we win.
Yeah. And along those lines, I know with the Democratic Socialist thing, you get the Mamdani effect. And one thing that Mamdani did towards the tail end of his campaign was that ad for trans rights that was so non-pandering, so genuine, so real, so respectful of a person's story that made them an individual. I think Mamdani won over people one at a time and then hundreds at a time and then thousands at a time because he did this where he focused on people's issues, and he did it unceasingly with a smile on his face. You could not catch that dude fucked up. You could not catch him, at all. And so how do you feel that's impacted your shift to this open statement of being a Democrat? Do you think the Mamdani effect has helped you or hurt you in Wisconsin, which is a totally different place?
It's definitely helped, and we are adopting strategies from his campaign. We know that's how we've been able to reach just an amazing community of youth voters who are always underestimated. They're not listened to, and they're tired of politics as usual and the establishment. But I'll say that for a while, I was really, and I still am honored to even get the comparison because Mayor Mamdani is he's getting shit done. I mean, it matters when you can get all the streets plowed after a blizzard.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing, like I have a resting bitch face.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never gonna be as charismatic as him. Like he is a once in a lifetime candidate, but you know, especially young folks, and we can't underestimate our voters that they can smell bullshit. So, I
Yeah.
I'm honored for the comparison, but right now, he had 50,000 volunteers. We have over 2,000 people who have signed up for our campaign. We have folks who are getting ready to do canvases all across the state right now. And normally campaigns don't focus on the organizing. They're focusing on the fundraising and getting ads up. And we've got our signs going up all across the state right now, and we have volunteers who they're the ones who got us this poll number. They're the ones who keep me going. And the fact that he kept showing up for communities who
Yes.
probably don't ever get to meet a gubernatorial a mayoral candidate, right? And I want to make sure that it's not just the county party meetings that I'm going to, and I love going to those too, but I have to make sure that I'm in these coffee shops and these third spaces where people like to gather, and I'm not out here pushing a message. I want to know about what they care and what they're scared of, and let them know that I care about a lot of the same things and I'm scared about a lot of the same things. And I think that the Mamdani campaign, their willingness to show up and be everywhere, their commitment to their volunteers, and then knowing that authenticity matters and being hyper disciplined on messaging matters. And for me, it's so much about storytelling too. And I love that Mayor Mamdani was, sharing things about like being in a band or something. And he's very proud to be Muslim. He's very proud to be a son of immigrants and an immigrant himself, I believe. So that, for me, the comparison and the rise of democratic socialism, but even so, the rise of working class people who are saying this is fucking enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's who I'm fighting alongside.
And I
Um,
don't think you have an RBF actually, but I do think you have a bartender face, like you don't take any shit. And and so I think the thing with Mamdani, whether or not it was the smile, it's that you can sense that that man is genuine, and that's coming off of
yes.
you as well. So
Authentic.
I think
Yes.
more than like maybe charismatic face, it's just being real with people and showing up and just being real and unapologetic. Another
Yes.
thing is his faith and how he is openly, devoutly Muslim unapologetically. So I
Yes.
think that is what is resonating with young people is wherever you come from or whatever background, if you show up and you're authentic, yep, they're going to smell fake a mile away and they just
Mhm.
want real.
I always say I'm more nervous to talk in front of young folks. Yesterday we were at a high school in the suburbs, a university in a small town, and at a childcare center. And even though I was talking to 2 and 3-year-olds and singing songs with them, I know that they're gonna be like coming towards me more if they can sense that I'm real, right? And young people can smell bullshit,
Yes.
and so it's been really amazing, the response. Turns out my TikTok video saying we gotta tax the fucking billionaires, resonated, and we invested very heavily in, digital early, and I think I told you this, Walter, when we were in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and we had 2 young women drive from Wausau, Wisconsin on a Sunday morning, and that's like an hour and a half, almost 2-hour drive.
Nice.
And they came in hard with questions about housing,
Good.
about living wages, and to, a coffee shop on Sunday morning. And that tells you the young people care. They're watching, they're ready for change, and they want to hold you accountable.
Yes.
And that's what makes for a better elected official.
Absolutely. I've been sharing your webpage, francescahong.com. I don't People have been asking in the chat because the people in the chat love you. And I was gonna say too, your face to me, it resonates integrity and authenticity. And so I mean, it's just the exact opposite of just about every other politician, with a
Yeah.
few exceptions here and there. So thank you again for being here. But say a few words about how people can support you, and then I've got a couple of follow-ups for you.
The first thing I always say is share a story about some of the issues that we're running on childcare, public education, healthcare, affordable housing, and paid leave for all. I mean, everyone's got a story about how this issue impacts them. And then go to our website, francescahong.com, sign up to volunteer. We've got, graphic designers, we have academics, we've got 15, 16-year-olds. We got folks who are well into their 60s and 70s. Our volunteer community's amazing. We'd love for you to share your time and your talents. And then, of course, we can't run a campaign without dollars. And so we had $2 Tuesday yesterday. Our grassroots community-powered campaign relies on small dollar donations. Whatever you're able to give today, if you can do $10, I ask that you do $5 for us and $5 to Indivisible Chippewa Valley or to an immigration justice organization that's in your community.
Beautiful. And what you said before too about kids recognizing BS. I mean, I've got a background as a teacher, and it's so easy. You don't even have to say a whole sentence. The second you're straight with the kids, you say one word, and the whole dynamic of the classroom changes. And I think we're seeing that on the national level because we've got two political parties that lecture to us, and if we try to ask follow-up questions like a curious student should be asking, that we get yelled at. How dare you? How dare you challenge us? I'm transparent. Well, can you show me this? No. And it's like so if we just switch that, I think because they make it seem like it's insurmountable. But the reality is a couple of us who start doing this and the more of us here, there's all these wonderful people talking, sharing this interview. Anytime you want to talk, I'm pretty much at if you want to jump online and just do like a half-hour talk, I'm always going to be available for you because people just want to hear it. They want to see these things. And, I just keep going back, though. As an educator, I get so frustrated because so much of what the problem we're in right now is because we're not telling the stories that make people feel bad about themselves, right? We teach American history like it's the Epstein files. We redact it all, and it's just sort of like, maybe what we should teach is the reality of how if these people did these horrible things, maybe they're not worthy of our reverence, for one thing. And also, we need to start teaching about how, in the history of the United States, white supremacists have rigged many, many elections. So I'm just kind of as we go into the midterms, I know this is on a lot of people's mind. There's been some questions about it. How do you feel about people are worried about midterms? I would like to see some audits from the last election yet. I think we have a right to demand that because the other side they're still doing audits of 2020. How come we can't do an audit of 2024? And I'm just worried. You're great. But what if you're cheated out of your win? I mean, that's really one of my big concerns. So your thoughts?
Well, first on public education, both Republican and Democratic administrations up until now have been shitty on public education. And the reason why the right has calculated how to dismantle public education is because it is the last remaining truly democratic institution. And when we fully fund our public schools, when we meet our constitutional obligation here in Wisconsin to ensure that every child, regardless of ability and where they live, has access to a basic and sound public education, we're not doing that, which is why we had the lawsuit come out yesterday. And when it comes to, oligarchy eroding democracy, I am very scared about what may happen with our elections. But the moment that we are in right now, where people feel they want to fight, they want to stay engaged, and they know that activism right now looks so many different ways. You don't have to just be out in the streets making a meal for your neighbor who's elderly or homebound matters. And I think that when it comes to our elections, to fair, secure elections, our clerks here are amazing. The folks who are working as poll workers are amazing. We have to support them. We have to let them know community has their back and we're going to keep them safe. And everyone's going to be fighting for the right to vote because they see whether it's the SAVE Act, there's a party that is clearly trying to keep you from voting, and that should piss you the fuck off. So showing up at the polls is in itself a form of resistance. And I hope folks know that there are more people who are fighting for fair elections who are going to make their voices heard. And if we're out here and there's a threat to that for the primary here in Wisconsin, which we got a very important spring election, April 7th, the primary on August 11th, and the general in November 3rd, I'm thinking about general strikes. I'm thinking about folks coming out and saying, you're not going to fucking take our democracy away.
Whew.
Yes.
Melissa?
I am so glad I got to meet you today.
I'm glad I got to meet you too.
I wish I could vote for you. I don't know.
Maybe a couple more years.
So
maybe
excited.
10 years down the road.
Yeah. But I will say that, Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. And I think I'm looking at one right now. And that radiates off you that you are a woman of the people. And I'm so proud to be talking to you and fully endorsing your candidacy, because this is exactly the kind of people that we need in leadership. I love it.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for all you're doing for community. Your governor gave an amazing response to the state of whatever the fuck that was. And so I don't know, I'm staying very nauseously hopeful that it's going to be the people winning and people power that's going to get us through.
It is.
Yeah, and I feel, part of it is because my furnace was out, so I didn't sleep last night. But I've been emotional all day, so I'm halfway between laughing and tears, just because I'm so delighted by you. And I mean, it seems like it's just been tidal wave after tidal wave of bad news and just violence and hatred and all this negativity. And it's so easy for this regime to find billions and trillions of dollars to give to hate, but every time we just ask for $1 to give to help, everybody just comes up and fights us. So we have to overcome that, but it does feel like that tide is changing, and it's because of people like you. So let me just say again, thank you so much for being a person who comes and talks to us regular people. And I know all the people here in the chat, they've been loving you so much, and we're all going to help you. I know, because we all want a better future for us and for our kids.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Appreciate what you both do. Thanks everyone in the chat and folks who are tuning in. And I'll just say once more that this is a year for the many and not the money. So we are not going to have power take over. We're going to take back power for ourselves. So thank you all so much.
Perfect. Any last words, Melissa?
No, go vote for this woman if you live in Wisconsin. Go do that. Support her. Well, I will say this. If this has inspired you, you do not have to go to Wisconsin. You can walk out of your front door and say hello to your neighbor, and you can get this work started in your own community. It's not hard. It doesn't require connections. Just go outside, go for a walk, wave to a neighbor you've never talked to before, and say hello.
Awesome.
Start there.
Yep. And Fran, don't hesitate, reach out, or have somebody from your campaign reach out. Anything I can do, I'm your resource. I'm for you. And yeah, let's take our country back.
Yes.
To you, my final word.
Our motto is forward here in Wisconsin, and I truly believe we're moving forward.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. This is great. This was absolutely perfect. No notes. So thanks to all the wonderful people. I know Fran's got other things to do. So does Melissa, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you so much. Love to you all. Stay safe. And yeah, we're going to win this. We're going to win it. All right.
Yep.
See you.
Take care, everyone.